Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another YouTube video. Today, we're going to be diving into and giving what is now going to resume being a daily cryptocurrency market update. We did release one yesterday at a slightly different time, but we're going to aim to kind of keep it at the time that we're releasing this one and keep it constant as we go throughout this year. There's some interesting things taking place. We're going to be taking a look at the markets as a whole and looking at some of the external markets around us. As we know, we are very heavily correlated to them. Certainly, we're going to be looking at the dollar as it's seeing a little bit of strength. Now, yesterday was a extremely significant day in the cryptocurrency space. It was Bitcoin's birthday. It was the day where the Genesis block was minted, or was mined, essentially. And this is an article from Bitcoin Archive, who is a fantastic... He's very, very up to date and on the ball with the latest cryptocurrency, or certainly Bitcoin news. I assume he's a bit of a Bitcoin maxi. Everybody's allowed their own opinion. I just happen to disagree with the kind of Bitcoin maxi argument. Here is the front page of the Times, from which Satoshi took the now famous headline embedded in the Genesis block: Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks. I want to just really reflect on this for a moment, because Satoshi, for those of you that don't know, nobody knows who Satoshi is. Or I wouldn't say nobody, I'm sure somebody does, but certainly it's not publicly known who Satoshi was. People have taken a lot of guesses. The most likely guess probably is Hal Finney, although there is a number of other candidates in the running. But the reason that Satoshi created Bitcoin was due to the fact that he just didn't trust, or he wanted a system outside of government control. Because governments have proven time and time again that they just are not capable of maintaining a fair and valuable money system. We see that around the world today. We're seeing that sort of the fruits of that happen in Turkey. Turkish lira saw a little bit of strength here based on some of the propagations Erdogan had kind of proposed. But, you know, fiat systems around the world are failing, and that's why Bitcoin was created. And if Satoshi was public, I think he would have got killed by now, or he would certainly be imprisoned. But he would certainly, in my opinion, be up for a Nobel Prize. This guy was an absolute genius, and everything that he prophesized and the reasons why he created Bitcoin are more apparent today than they ever have been. And we will take a look at this in relation to Bitcoin against the dollar. We'll put the charts side by side. So it's always important to remember, if you want to learn about crypto and you want to learn about Bitcoin and how we got to where we are today with all these third generation cryptos and how ETH evolved from Bitcoin, then always start at the beginning. And the good thing about crypto is we're still early. You know, you've only got 11 or 13 years of history to really go through. So with that said, I'm going to be showing you some interesting... The markets are in a bit of red today, still in fear on the fear and greed index. Not to worry, ladies and gentlemen. You guys know that we've got this kind of pattern in play. This was first pointed out by the Crypto Sniper, I must admit that. And this is something that, you know, I can see being very probable of playing out. And I'm going to be showing you some data to suggest this. This, again, is from Bitcoin Archive. Like I say, he's a really useful guy to follow, certainly for on-chain and off-chain Bitcoin data. And this is Bitcoin illiquid supply. It keeps going up. Price usually follows, but who knows when. The trend is very bullish, even though people hate hearing this when the price is dipped. Uncertainty equals opportunity, and he's absolutely correct. People lose interest when the price sells off. I'm here to tell you that that's when you guys should be getting fired up. There's opportunities everywhere. We are looking at the CNFT space right now, which is looking extremely hot, and we have been making some... We've not made any money yet because I've not sold any, but the floor price of these CNFT keeps rising. So when everybody's bearish and has a very negative outlook, you know, I try and stay positive and look for opportunities. And that's the mindset you guys should adopt. I want you all to succeed, and you're not going to do it with a negative mindset. Now, I hate it when people say that, because we all know it's a lot easier said than done to just switch your mindset and be happy all the time. Our brains don't work like that. We're all human, you know, and that's something that makes me extremely happy, is, you know, we're all on this football of an earth together. So this is you can see the liquid supply in red. Now, why is this so interesting to me? Well, we said that you're doing a similar thing. We very much compared. You had the March 2020 sell-off, which of course was a global macro event. And then if you look at the structure you set up, you come up, you don't quite make a new high, you consolidate, sell off, you attack it again, marginally make a higher high before you then sell off. Capitulate or consolidate, sorry, and then you see that continuation. You break out the top of this kind of sort of rising wedge, if you will. I mean, this looks certainly more like a rising wedge than this one does. But rising wedges are typically a bearish pattern in the same way that falling wedges are typically a bullish pattern. They have a higher probability of breaking to the downside of rising wedge and a falling wedge obviously to the upside. But it doesn't always have to be the case. And in fact, you know, given certain criteria, you know, they do look more likely to break to the upside. And this is what we're looking at. So you can see the pattern that we embodied over there. We sold off, which of course was the May sell-off caused by a number of things. And then we come up again, we sell off, we make a marginally higher high, akin to what we did here after this first little rally. So you can see them here and here. After this sell-off, 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 and then you come and we could see a little bit more continuation or capitulation, sorry, before we see that move to the upside, which takes us above and beyond our all-time highs. This is going to be bullish season for altcoins, in my opinion. You know, a number of things taking place. Ethereum, people think I hate on Ethereum. I do not. I hate the fact that Ethereum has just become totally unusable for small retail investors looking to use DeFi. There's no argument that you can make to that. And I think there's a lot of blockchains out there that are doing a better job at what Ethereum originally set out to do. The only thing that Ethereum really has above many of these blockchains, and Cardano is, and I hate to bring it up, about to become far superior in terms of a DeFi space, in terms of usability, not adoption necessarily just yet. Ethereum is the biggest smart contract blockchain. We're not taking anything away from it. We all owe Ethereum a great amount of gratitude due to the fact that without it, we wouldn't have many of the cryptos that we have today, and crypto could look very, very different. It was the first, the blueprint, if you will. But you do have this falling wedge setting up. Typically, this will break to the downside. You're also at the bottom of your sort of descending resistance that you have kind of adhered to, or ascending support, I should say, sorry. It looks better on the logarithm out of log. You can see this. You're looking like you're ready for a break to the upside. And this is kind of potentially a kind of macro cup and handle structure. Bearing in mind, ETH2, we don't know when it's going to be, but when that does come online, there's some extremely bullish fundamental reasons for why it will do well, like the fact that a lot of the supply will actually get locked up within staking. Given the sort of usage that it has, that's, you know, a recipe for a real boom, in my opinion. It's already very high, and I think ultimately, my opinions on Bitcoin and Ethereum are that altcoins will outperform them. However, there's a lot more risk potentially taken on with some of your altcoins. So back to the direction. One thing that's important to know, I've scribbled all over the place, so I'll remove some of these. I hope you guys are following along because this is going to make sense. If I haven't made sense so far, it's about to. Given what we've just seen on the illiquid supply. So let's quickly remove these. And you can see here, look at your illiquid supply, ladies and gentlemen. You can see that you've broken above the actual price for really the first time since back here. Now, the structure over here is the same structure that we're saying is taking place here today. So can you see that? Your liquid supply went like this. Yeah, today, for the first time, they did something like this. It's now breaking back above it. And you can see that. The reason that I bring this up is because this is very interesting. He's absolutely right. The price usually follows this, follows the liquid supply moving up. And that's exactly what we're expecting. There's a few other things that I wanted to talk about. This was a tweet that I found very interesting. Follow me on Twitter if you're not already, guys. My Twitter handle is @RealAllinCrypto. I'll show you in just a second. Everyone is bearish now. Trade volume is record low. That means God Candle is coming soon. Wait a few days. I like it, BTC. I think we should start leaving God out of this. But anyway, and he's right. You know, there's a lot of bearish sentiment, and this is typically when you want to be bullish. The retail, it's a different market that we're in now, guys, and retail ultimately is not necessarily who you want to be listening to. You want to listen to retail in terms of trends and so on and so forth, but not in terms of how they're feeling. They're often, and I'm still a part of retail, you know, often a lot more emotional and a lot less clued up. Me being a part of that potentially than you know, some of the people who have been investing in markets for years, and not only that, you know, have kind of connections with how these markets move in terms of the capital to move them. So it's a kind of different game that we're playing, and you know, low volume sets up for explosive growth. volatility. That's what we're actually expecting for Bitcoin. Volatility to the upside. You could see a push here, you could see a rejection. We kind of drizzle upwards in the same way that we did here. And the illiquid supply certainly backs that up. I found that very interesting. This is the hash rate from Bitcoin Archive again. The China ban, which we know took place on May. China, when you look at China, they've had such a role to play in how Bitcoin has looked this year. We know that, we didn't quite follow the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory, I should say. Somebody did comment that a kindred is not actually a word. I do pay attention to all the comments, and thank you very much for alerting me to that. It's probably something I should have known. But we didn't finish in a 2017 or prior to that 2013 fashion when we saw a parabolic end to the year. China's had a lot to do with this. Now, that ultimately sets us up for the Bitcoin lengthening cycle theory, popularized by people like Benjamin Cohen and so on and so forth. And that's the road I think we're heading on. I think Bitcoin has gone from being, and crypto as a whole has gone from really being tethered to Bitcoin's fundamentals, like the fact that we have a halving every 4 years, and moving into a different kind of growth, a different kind of adoption curve, if you will, where we kind of move with general markets and outperform at certain points and not. And we're going to talk about that in a second, bringing us back to this article, bringing us back to the dollar, and showing you that, what Satoshi really set out for Bitcoin has taken place. We will touch on the FTSE because stocks are still continuing to climb. I think Apple reached a $3 trillion market cap, which again is nearly 1.5 times our entire market. And there's some also interesting information in regards to them and the amount of debt that they hold, and how we're seeing actually a lot of companies holding cash now. So does that mean that they're ready to buy into something? Could that be Bitcoin? Complete speculation at this point, just an interesting kind of thing to bring up. So that's where we're at. Cardano, you guys know where I think we're at for ADA. I think we're about to embark on this fifth wave. And I think this is, these patterns I've seen play out time and time again. For example, here was a perfect example where you make a low, you rally, you retrace the majority of the run. You have everyone extremely bearish before you then set off in a new direction. You can see a similar thing taking place today, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I think is going to play out. I'm extremely bullish on what's around the corner for ADA with their DApp ecosystem turning on and a DeFi. I hate to use the word DeFi done right, but it's going to be a DeFi that's going to be user-friendly for retail and small investors. And it's going to be faster, it's going to be cheaper, and you can't argue with that. There's no argument to be had for that. And people say, okay, well, what about the layer 2s like Polygon? They are layer 2s. They are a separate, it's not a layer 1. ETH is a layer 1 blockchain. In my opinion, in its current state, is no good. And that is why, I wouldn't say no good, but it's not user-friendly. It's not an enjoyable experience having to spend a lot of money on transacting. You get a better deal with the kind of CeFi, centralized finance. So anyway, we're getting off on a tangent. So I'm very bullish on crypto. I think volatility is just a part of it. I think we're in a strange market and certainly uncharted waters given how things have previously played out. China's had a lot to do with this, talking about the hash rate and how we're back to new all-time highs. So Bitcoin's come back stronger than ever in a more decentralized fashion. And this is a trait of Bitcoin. It's resilient. It's very, very resilient. So let's talk about this from Lynn Alden. Lynn Alden is amazing, by the way, guys. She is probably one of the people who I follow most closely in terms of a financial direction. I listen to what she says. She's very, very good at correlating and comprising data and coming up with a narrative, if you will, or a potential narrative. Of the 6 largest US companies, 5 of them have more cash than long-term debt and thus have negative debt positions. Apple is unique of the bunch in the fact that it has more debt than cash. It reached $3 trillion in market cap today, though. Are these companies holding more cash? Now, there's a reason these companies will probably have more cash due to the stimulus and so on and so forth, and how we've seen a lot of that go into these stocks. When we've worked it out, there would be, I think in America it was like 73,000 per household that would have been distributed during this period. Households haven't received that. That's largely gone into bolstering up the stock market and other, such assets. And we've seen that reflected in the price. Certainly we saw that in things like the S&P. We saw that in the FTSE. This was your... we don't even have the March sell-off here. This was your March crash. And then they've had to sort of prop it up. But it's not gone on to make new all-time highs yet. But other things like the S&P and so on and so forth have. So the next point very quickly is going back to this, and then we'll wrap this video up. This was just a sort of broad overview, keeping people bullish and informed and entertained, hopefully. The Chancellor on the brink of second bailout. And this was 2008. 2008 was a joke. Wall Street at this point shouldn't exist because they have been responsible for practically every single, I think barring one potentially, which happened essentially when we first had banks and they were all private banks that they kind of crashed to bring them all under one roof. But that's for another story. Look into the history of money, ladies and gentlemen, how we've got to where we are today. Bitcoin will make a lot more sense. The reason Satoshi created this was due to the fact that he was just sick of the general public having no control over something that has complete control over everybody's life, and that is finance. People don't seem to want to pay attention to it, don't think that money is important in terms of learning about it. It's one of the most essential day-to-day things that we have. You know, you cannot live without money, unfortunately. I mean, you could, but, you know, what would your quality of life potentially be? And even then, could you really, in the kind of modern Western world that we live in? It's, you know, not just the modern Western world, across the globe. So it's why he created it, and this is really what you're looking at. And he created it back then, and he's been absolutely right, and it's already done it for us. What are these? The 2 daily charts. Let's get the weekly charts up. Okay, so let's 2013. Let's trim this a little bit just to show you how right he actually was. You can see that Bitcoin has just gone up. Yes, the dollar has had periods of relative strength and weakness, but ultimately the dollar, I think, since Bitcoin's creation has lost 99% to it, and it's very, very correlated. Certainly, you know, what we've seen take place since March 2020. Let's make this longer. This was March 2020 over here. You can see Bitcoin goes up, dollar goes down, and we're very correlated with this kind of volatile year that we've had of ups and downs with the dollar and the strength of it. And this is Satoshi's vision really becoming more apparent and relevant as everything that he set out for fiat systems is taking place. And we could look at the GBP against Bitcoin and so on and so forth. So that's really all I have for you. It was just a short and sweet update. It's not been that short. Hopefully it's been sweet. I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to love and leave you on that note, and I'll catch you all in a video later on today. So if you enjoyed the video, like, as always, appreciate it. So as a comment, and I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Thank you very much for watching.